'cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
recognition, I'm the rap game. Stay free and data together, serving in one position. But the troubles and difficulties, man, for collision. Face attention, algorithms got me on the dawn. Analyzing pixels, trying to find a face design. Matching pictures, going deep into the code. It's like building an empire created by a bubble. Gotta train them all, make you recognize faces. But the road ain't easy, man, it's full of tight spaces. Dealing with lighting conditions, angles and noise. It's like turning wildcats, man, it ain't no toys.
United States, Donald Trump Jr. We'll get to that conversation in just a moment. Can't wait for that. But first, I've got something important to tell you. While we may have won this election, the fight to restore our great nation is only just beginning. Now is the time to take a stand, and Patriot Mobile is leading the charge as America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. Patriot Mobile offers a way to vote with your wallet without compromising on any quality or convenience. Patriot Mobile isn't just about providing exceptional cell phone service. It's a call to action to defend our rights and our freedoms. With Patriot Mobile, you will get outstanding nationwide coverage because they operate on all three of the major networks. So if you have cell phone service today, you can easily get cell phone service with Patriot Mobile with a coverage guarantee. But the difference is every dollar you spend supports a company that really does believe in the First and the Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, and our veterans and first responders. Switching is so completely easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% US-based customer support team will help you find the perfect plan. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT and get a free month of service with the promo code Vince. Switch to Patriot Mobile today and defend freedom with every call and text that you make. Visit patriotmobile.com/Vince or call 972-PATRIOT. All right, shall we? We shall. Okay, good. Thank you, gentlemen. Joining me now, right here in this amazing Silverlock studio, is the one and only Donald Trump Jr.
Good to see you, man.
Nice to see you.
Good to be here. I mean, I feel honored to be in the lineup that you had going on this week. I mean, that's a pretty solid start.
Well, I think people should know that all of the people I've interviewed this week happen to be close friends. Like everybody, every one of these guys is a buddy. Like,
and of mine as well. So.
Of yours. Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah. That's great. In fact, let's start with J.D. Vance because he made a big splash yesterday. He was here on our program. We had a great interview with him. Mm-hmm. And then the media went absolutely wild. They were furious at him. Can we play the clip of him that everybody's talking about? This is him talking about Kamala Harris consuming vodka shots before every single meeting. Take a look at this.
You talked earlier about the role of the vice president and how it's different with each presidency. How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it?
If we're going to stick the landing on that, that's where he responds.
That was not the response that got the media.
You talked earlier about the role of the vice president and how it's different with each presidency. How are you doing the job differently than Kamala did it?
Well, I don't have 4 shots of vodka before every meeting. That's one way I think that Kamala really tried to bring herself into the role is these word salads, and I think that I would need the help of a lot of alcohol to answer a question the way that Kamala Harris answered questions.
So good. I mean, tough but fair.
Tough but fair.
I mean, it's legit. I mean, I've never seen someone that could get to the ranks that Kamala Harris did who could not complete a sentence.
Yes.
And you saw that. It was just such an empty suit. It's like a caricature created entirely by the media and a Democratic apparatus that this is going to be the leader of the free world. I'm like, and you saw it. You always knew it kind of intuitively, but during that presidential run, you saw it so early when it was like, okay, fine. What would you do differently? I wouldn't do anything differently. Fine. You got it wrong. Even the left was killing her for that. Like, just answer something on the border, on Ukraine, on any one of the major issues that was destroying the nation. But when she was asked, a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, and was
in friendly outlets.
Listen, if you go on The View and basically almost end your political campaign as a Democrat, like, if you can't get through The View, how are you going to get through, like, Putin, Xi?
It's the most basic question imaginable. Like, it's the kind of thing that you would think to yourself while you're brushing your teeth before the interview.
Yeah.
They're probably going to ask me, what would my presidency be? How would it be different?
Yeah.
And that's the most basic possible question. And it was, what's her face? Sunny on The View. Sunny Hostin, who was like, how would your presidency be different? She's like, not at all. It'd be the same
It'd be exactly the same. Everything that we've failed at, we're going to continue failing at. And I'm like, how do they not know, like, to adjust? Like, hey, I get it. Everyone's had a bad answer. Yeah. Right? Everyone's, put their foot in their mouth, whatever it was, or maybe got caught off guard. But, like, you're running a presidential campaign. Like, adjust.
Big time.
Overcome.
Was it weird to you? It was almost a cruel joke that every single person at the top of that administration couldn't speak in English sentences. So Joe Biden, obviously for mental reasons, couldn't do that. Kamala Harris, for different mental reasons, couldn't do that. And then Karine Jean-Pierre, literally the White House spokeswoman, was incapable of speaking in English. What happened?
Listen, the reality, I mean, everyone in the administration, they valued whatever diversity check boxes they could check much more than competence, right? It was very simple. That's what it was like. Karine Jean-Pierre, she was the first foreign-born, lesbian, black woman. It's like, well, like, listen, if you check enough boxes, eventually you're going to come up with a combination of possibilities that, like, well, there's not another person in the world that meets all those other requirements.
That's right.
And that's what it felt like to me, because it was so obvious no one knew what they were talking about, but it didn't matter because that was what they cared about. And that's why you could see it was just, abject failure.
Yes.
And it, I guess to an extent, I always say we sort of needed those last 4 years for the rest of the country to wake up. As brutal as it was for me.
Yes. You feel like that?
I do, and it sucked, right? They went after our businesses. They went after this. I'm like the most subpoenaed man in the history of the world, both congressionally and otherwise. The lawsuits and the lawfare and the this. But then you combine the American public finally seeing that with a failing economy, endless wars, all of this, and they're like, you know what, maybe Trump isn't that bad. Like, they saw even the lawsuits were so ridiculous, and so that people are like, listen, if you want to go after him for something, fine, but like, when no one believes any of it is real anymore, and they see it's only happening in areas where they could weaponize it, they see it's only happening in, Atlanta and D.C. And New York City. It's like, this is probably all nonsense. And it took a while. It was like what I dealt with, during the early days of Russia.
Right.
And I did 50 hours of congressional testimony for treason, a crime punishable by death. And I'm sitting there be like, well, I must have been around someone, like, because I wanted to believe, like, well, no, but it's the FBI. It's the FBI.
So there was some part of you that believed there was a credible explanation for this.
I wanted to believe that like everything I believed about America actually existed.
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, I thought I was fighting to preserve the America I believed existed. Turns out I was actually fighting to help create an America that has been missing for a long time.
Yeah.
But like I said, even me in that spot under fire, they're trying to throw you in jail and worse, right? Like, it's like, well, there has to be something to it. And it took me a while to be like, no, there doesn't have to be anything to it. It's all BS.
Our buddy Dan Bongino, now deputy director of the FBI, thank God, he would always use this expression, is it bad enough yet? That was the phrase that he would use over these past few years. And it turns out by the 2024 election, America had concluded, yes,
yes, it was.
It's bad enough.
Yes, it was.
It's bad enough. Let me go back to J.D. Vance for a moment, because I want to figure out how he became vice president of the United States. That's key. It's not a secret that you were pushing for him, that you wanted him to be the guy. He's fantastic. There were a lot of doubters out there about him, and not just among the kind of the inner circle world of Republican politics, but in the general public. People were not as familiar with J.D. Vance as they probably should have been, or hadn't yet become acquainted with him. Tell me about that fight. What was that like, pushing to get J.D. Vance to be the guy?
Well, it started pretty early. I had actually, read his book when it first came out. Like when we were, mid-teens, mid-20 teens, whatever it was. I was like, wow, this is a guy that could, like, the backstory coming out of Appalachia and the poverty and breaking that cycle and becoming a business guy. And then that was way before even politics. And then it was like, oh, wow, he's a Trump hater for a while. And it was sort of interesting. I knew some friends that knew him be like, you got to get together with this guy. Like, you guys would be best friends. And so we started doing that early, 2020, 2021, whatever it was. I started talking. I'm like, and he had come to the conclusion that, wait, actually Trump was right. And I was the guy that was being manipulated. He came there on his own, right? There's guys that in politics that sort of, okay, I'll say what I need to say right now to get into a position. There's other guys that actually change their entire worldview.
Yes.
On their own, organically. Listen, I think Marco Rubio at State has done that. 10 years ago,
He has.
What he believed would have been, very more neocon. Like, he's there on his own. And he's doing a great job.
Marco, in his case, he was kind of famously a part of what they called the Gang of Eight amnesty bill with Lindsey Graham, and his views have definitely changed a lot.
And on their own, and I think he's doing an incredible job at State. But so I got to sort of know JD real well, and I saw that sort of Ohio Senate primary, and I don't think it's a secret to say that Republicans in the Senate, with the exception of a very small handful, generally like our weakest crew, right? There's just not many guys you'd want in a foxhole in a political fight. It's sort of,
they like being comfortable.
They like being comfortable, and it's really easy to be a Republican in Washington D.C. That will come as a surprise to people if you just give in when it matters. Like, you can be like 90% conservative,
right?
As long as you fold on the big fights, which the Republicans in the Senate very reliably do for the Democrats. And so it's an easy existence. So I saw sort of a talent. I saw, a depth.
Yes.
But like, he can take complex issues and talk about them, whether it's foreign policy or otherwise, and like simplify them to where regular people can understand it. He can be really wonky too if he wants to, but he actually knows how to translate that down to people who aren't policy wonks, or whatever it may be. And so I was like, this guy as just really impressive. Love the backstory. I think it's important for people to be able to, see like you can still live that American dream. It still exists.
So how
he
does
did that.
So how does the lobbying effort?
Okay, well, so
Because obviously, like you would think. I mean, it's got to be a big deal for your son. In your case, you approached your father and you're like, "Look, I think JD's really good. I think you should seriously consider him."
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Well, so I went to him during that Ohio Senate race primary where JD was like number 3 or 4 in a primary. And oftentimes you don't want to get involved in a primary because who knows? You certainly don't want to back the number 4 guy usually, even if he's great. Because like if you lose that, you sort of expend a lot of political capital, and that's I try to be as pure as I possibly can, but there's realities that you have to deal with in Washington. But I was like, listen, like. This guy's going to be a rock star. We just got to let him, get there. Tucker actually got pretty involved. I
remember he did it kind of famously on his national television show. He featured JD a lot. He believed him. He openly endorsed him.
And a lot of other guys were trying to block him out. So we got that over the line. He performed incredibly in those debates. He was the only guy that wasn't like sort of more neocon-y and all of that. Understood like no one wants the endless wars, despite what Washington D.C. would want.
Right.
So did that. Becomes a senator. Campaigned heavily for him during that general. And then he was just like a breakout star in the Senate. Right, he could articulate the issues. He wasn't afraid to get aggressive. That just was such a lacking thing in there. And so when the VP stuff started happening, it was like this is a no-brainer. Because for me, I think most people who know me and have watched me for the last 9 years, like I'm actually a believer in this stuff. Like I actually care. Right,
yes,
I was
that's true.
I was a conservative since I was a kid. Even if I grew up in New York City, like it was so for me, it's not about like we just got to get 4 years of Trump at all costs. It was about no, we need 4 years of Trump and a runway. And that's the other thing that the 4 years gave us. This last 4 years.
Yeah.
We found people who would fight. If we and I believe we won 2020. I don't think anyone watching doesn't believe that, but we didn't assume office. But what that 4 years also did was allowed us to find a crew of fighters, people who can do this. That's why this cabinet, had we just kept going from 2020 to 2024, like it would have been the same weaker cabinet. Maybe there's a couple guys that were great, but not many. The can kickers, we're just going to wait it out, right? See what happens. We're going to slow roll it. We're not going to follow the will of the president. We're the unelected bureaucracy is going to make all those decisions. We'll tell him what he wants to hear, but not get anything done. So what the Democrats did, and I said it a couple weeks ago, it was probably the stupidest move ever playing those games in 2020 for them because. A, it exposed just how weak they are. B, it exposed things like how bad the teachers' unions are because we saw it with the lockdowns and the nonsense and everything. It forced people to wake up. And we also finally, for the first time in history, we have a bench.
Yeah, because everyone got battle experience.
Yeah, everyone was battle hardened. You could see who was a fighter.
Yeah, you're looking at everyone who's been victimized by the left and by the deep state. Like whether it's Tulsi Gabbard, who's been tracked as a terrorist, or RFK, who's been censored by the big tech companies at the behest of the White House. You start going down the list and you realize, whoa, each of these guys has been subjected to their own trials at the hands of the American left. And they're in better position now. They're ready to fight.
100%. And you sort of brought in that coalition. So I was sort of behind the RFK endorsement. I sort of made that happen through a good friend of mine that was best friends with his son. It was like another one of those, like you two would be best friends if you hung out. And so we did. And it was like, you saw the Democrats were trying to turn Bobby into like, the ultra conservative. And that's the choice against MAGA versus MAGA to try to split that vote. And so like, I was like, hey, Bobby, you're not going to win. We know that, but like you could cause significant damage here. I actually believe in so much of what he's saying out there. I think like you are a subject matter expert on the health stuff. I think it's so critical. I have 5 young kids. I see the garbage that's out there. I see what they try to cover up. Like, let's figure out how to work together. He was like, okay,
right.
And we sort of negotiated that one sort of back. It was me, my buddy Bobby, his campaign manager, and Susie Wiles, and that was it. We kept everyone else out of that. We did the same thing with Tulsi actually. Because my friend who introduced us was also a kind of former Democrat that saw what happened during lockdowns and became was totally, red pilled and has been on board. So we brought this sort of interesting coalition back together. But to get back to JD, that was complicated because the reality in politics and, all of politics, but money controls so much.
Yes.
So every billionaire donor that's out there that's, writing 5, 10, 15, 20, $25 million checks and up sometimes, they want their puppet in there. They want to be able to try to control the future. They want to be able to do this. So for me, it was basically the biggest voices in that room for JD would have been me initially, and all in Tucker, Charlie Kirk, some of the just the grassroots guys that are on the ground that know what's going on. Yeah, it was us versus the entire billionaire class who each had their own whatever it may be. There wasn't necessarily a consolidation around one particular guy. Got to a couple, and it was just like, I get it. I know you need the money, but you also need to win, and you also need to create that bench because it's not just about you winning. It's about making sure. And I don't want to even say the Republican Party because I don't think it's the Republican Party anymore. It's an America First Party. That this has a runway beyond the 4 years of Trump. So you could be the sledgehammer for 4 years, but you need someone who can run with that afterwards.
So what you're describing goes against the caricature of your father, which is that he's merely in it for himself and his own advancement. So if he's thinking the long game, he's actually thinking about the big picture.
Oh, 100%. Listen, So if you're Trump and it's only about you, you'd find some, average conservative guy that the billionaires would be able to get behind, that would never outshine or never outperform you. It's what Kamala Harris did with Tim Walz, right? Well, we can't find someone who has political talent, even if I disagree, with their views. Like there are people in the Democrat Party that have political talent. She couldn't have someone as the number 2 that had political talent.
Right.
She had to find someone that was worse than her to not outshine her, and like. That's got to be challenging even in the Democrat Party to find someone worse. But
it's a sign of insecurity.
Correct. So Trump gets this guy that's this rock star who, and you saw it, you put him on the Sunday shows. It just destroys all these people. You put him on, in the debate. And at the end of the debate, Tim Walz is sitting there being like, I agree with everything JD said. I'm like, I think he's voting for Trump. Like, I was like, I think he's voting for Trump by the end of that thing.
That's true.
And so
JD was so funny yesterday. He says, I was never physically intimidated by Tim Walz. I asked him, I was like, because Tim Walz is out there saying that he's like, I could kick everybody's ass.
But that was the whole joke of like the whole campaign. They tried to. Tim Walz is the left's idea of masculine.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like, but because they don't know what masculine actually is. So they're like, well, this guy one time held a shotgun. So he's and like you could watch. I'm sitting there like, as someone who does a lot of this stuff, I'm like watching him trying to load
I know.
A Beretta A400. I'm like, listen, you give me any shotgun in the world and a blindfold and 3 cells, and I'll load it in about 4 seconds. Doesn't matter. If it's a pump, if it's an autoloader, like a brake action, like I will know just by feel. And when they're like, this guy's a serious hunter, and he's sitting there struggling, trying to load, like, his gun is really, and he's like, the whole quote was like, MAGA's intimidated by masculinity. I'm like, have you ever watched this guy get on a stage? I'm like, it's like the opening scene of The Nutcracker. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I was like, I don't know. I've never seen a wrist so limp. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm like, that was the left's idea of masculine. And so they're trying to push this on people who are actually masculine, or at least not totally effeminate.
Yeah.
And like, people are like, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. And he's still running with it. You saw it this week. He's like, I could beat the hell out of every MAGA Republican. I'm like, just stop. Yeah. By the way, the number one sign of not being all that masculine is like talking about how masculine you actually are, right?
That's
it's
so
like
funny.
And so we're jumping around a little bit, but it was, but you could see it. Even Fox News, they were trying to crush JD. Like like they were forcing a narrative, like trying to crush this guy because we want our puppet in there. All these guys were going against it, and I think the one thing my father probably figured out with me was like, I'm just the guy on the ground. I'm the guy that doesn't just show up for the selfie to be in the back of his speech. I don't go to his speeches, right? I go to the speeches where he can't be,
right?
Because that's actually accretive.
Yeah.
Right. Like if there's one Trump in the room, it's plenty. Yeah. Right. You don't need 2 Trumps in a room. I don't add much value. Some of the stuff you do for history because it's cool, but like too many people in that world I just want to be where he is because I can be in the selfie and I can use it to promote whatever.
Yes.
It's like, no. I'm going to go to like the middle of Iowa and speak to, 300 people in a room that, the nominee can't go do. To add value. So I just had a feeling of what's going on the ground. I have a feeling where people are. So, he's sort of, trusting me with that one. And I knew it was always, even the Sunday shows, he started crushing. Like I said, he's putting, Martha Raddatz in a place. Martha, like, do you hear yourself speaking?
Yes.
Trendall Aragua only took over a couple of buildings in Colorado. I mean, it's wild how deranged they are.
Yes.
And he could do it, but like, I get high strung, I get aggressive. Like he'll tell these people and just slap them around like a little child, but he just calm and collected and cool. And like everyone saw it. And I knew I was finally vindicated because there were a lot of people in the press, all those butthurt billionaires, they were MFing me behind my back. And, and some of them even came up to me afterwards, like, I hated you more than any person in politics for about a month and a half after the convention. But you were actually right. I was like, you should not have told me that because I don't forget these things.
I know
but it's fine.
I've noticed a lot of people saying that. Like, I was completely wrong about JD Vance. I had no idea.
That's like the number one thing I hear right now. And so I knew I was good because half the time, hey, playing to the whole crowd, but like sometimes it's an audience of one. And that audience of one is a very powerful man.
Yes.
And it was after the debate, the vice presidential debate. I go do the spin room and I did like 2 hours of straight media, just like, from American to like BBC and and my phone keeps ringing in my pocket. And I'm like, okay, just mute. Because I figured, it's just a bunch of people like, great, JD did great. I was like, it was actually no people. It was 15 like missed calls from my dad at 2 a.m. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call him back. And I do. He picks up on the first ring at 2 a.m. He's kind of a machine. Don, I did that one for you, Don, but that was a 10. There's not a lot of 10s. That was a 10. And so it was finally like, okay, I don't care if I'm vindicated in the minds of the billionaire class. It means nothing to me. Like I fight for if I cared about that, I would have stayed as a real estate developer in New York. Like I actually, sort of, I'm basically a redneck on the weekends when I'm not, in a suit or whatever doing those things. That's what I like to do. Those are the people I hang out with. And so, that was but the ultimate vindication was him finally being like, hey, man, this is a risk. It's a little bit of an unknown entity. He was, senator for 2 years.
Yes.
And, while he clearly overperformed in everything, that was the ultimate because I didn't care what anyone else thought. It was like, he got it.
That's very gratifying.
And he understands talent better than anyone.
Yeah, that's gratifying as a son. And your father's like, you know what? You did really good. This is really good. And like thinking about that, actually, I'm reminded of like, kind of one of the stories of the campaign was the influence that your family had over your dad. The one that kept popping up is that your brother Barron, like, had advised him to do all of these podcasts, to basically go outside of the traditional media, get out of there, go to places where massive numbers of especially young people are watching, and speak directly to them in these really long form interviews. That was a huge success. Yeah, I'm not sure how involved Barron was with that. I think he definitely spoke to my dad about it. I was doing the same thing, right? Oh, were you?
It's sort of my world also, right? I know most of those guys, and I was like, hey, you got to do this. And the thing about the long form stuff is, if you're Kamala Harris, maybe she couldn't even get, here's the 4 sound bites I get in a 5-minute interview on MSDNC, right? Usually you can crank those. Like, I know the long form, eventually you got to let your guard down. Eventually you gotta actually have something to say. And so I was like, I know he does. Like the Rogan thing was incredible. And I was talking with Dana about making that happen for a while, Dana White. Just be like, we got to get him on there because he'll do so well. Like, because people are like, well, Trump doesn't know anything. Like when they started talking about like the history of the Civil War, people were like, wait a minute. Like Trump actually has some serious depth in these things.
He likes about McKinley's presidency and
some
really
fairly random stuff, but historically important and critical to like where we are today. But like, you're like, wait a minute, Trump does have depth. He may not show it all the time. Sometimes you got to get the soundbite out. Sometimes, you can't get to all of the detail. But I think it was so important. He could do one after the other, and he'd made the effort to go out there. And there were no terms or conditions put in there.
Yes,
and everyone saw that. And I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was a mistake or the smartest thing in the world for Kamala Harris to not have done those things.
It's probably better that she
because, is it worse that she didn't do it, or is it worse that she would have done it and failed miserably?
She would have failed, and that's because the left doesn't really subject itself to that kind of battle. They try to avoid it at all costs. They censor people in order to prevent debate.
Yeah, they've never had to have that battle because they had the media that would do it for them.
Yeah,
they had big tech that would do that for them. I mean, anything that was a sort of outside of the rules would just be censored and shut down. It didn't matter, right? The Hunter Biden laptop was always real. Everyone knew about it. The New York Post reported on it in 2020. I wrote a book about some of these things in 2020. It just never got out into the ether. It was not allowed because it was contrary to where they wanted it to go. So they've never actually had to fight an intellectual battle. And when they do these days, they've gotten so accustomed to either having that support or just going right to like, it's racist, it's misogynist, it's like the easy button of today's left. Like, anything doesn't go with the talking points is racist. That just doesn't work anymore because they're sort of over it.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. I want to talk to you about somebody else in the family, your daughter, Kai.
Yes.
So Kai Trump gets introduced to the whole planet when she goes and speaks to the Republican National Convention last year. That, of course, happened right after your father was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. Tell me kind of what is that like inside the family to make this decision that your now 17-year-old daughter is going to stand on a national stage and introduce her grandfather?
Honestly, it wasn't a family decision. It was 100% her. Like right after that, everyone's like, that was a brilliant move by Don Jr. to try to humanize his father with his daughter. Like, I was like, I'd never subject like my child to that, push it on them for like political gain. Like I know how wrong that can go if it goes bad.
Sure. Yes.
But like how it all started was I got the rare call as a dad of a 17-year-old to be like, hey dad, I want to hang out and go fishing today. Like that doesn't happen very often, right? It's like 17-year-old. It's like if I get a call or even a response on a text message once every 10 texts, I'm lucky. And so
did that happen before the assassination?
Oh yeah, that was before it. So she was like, early that morning, I was like, okay, I'm dropping everything because this is a once in a year type call.
Yes.
I'm dropping everything. I'm taking her fishing. We went offshore. We live right on the water in Florida. So we, went offshore. We're having a great day. And I get the call like, your dad's been shot. I'm like, and there's no degrees of good. Some calls are good or bad. Like there's no degrees of good in this. It's just, well, how bad? Well, we don't know. And I'm telling her, like, we got to go. She's like, what do you mean we're having I was like, we got to go. And I told her, and I guess the one thing that perhaps wasn't a total failure that day was they were smart enough to shut down, communication. So we didn't know for 90 minutes.
So did you, in this 90-minute window, did you see the videos that we were all seeing?
Well, I was running a boat, at about 50 miles an hour.
Yes.
I set the, probably the record through Jupiter Inlet and back to my house. And think I may have blown through some no-wake zones.
I bet.
I think cops would have understood that if I got pulled over, so I was willing to take the chance, get back to the house. And then I started seeing those videos. But again, you don't know. Like, I'm a hunter, right?
Yes.
I've shot a deer that's dead. It just doesn't know it yet. It can run for, a couple hundred yards. And then, so you don't know, you come back to find, but you're bleeding out slowly or whatever it may be. So I didn't know. It took about 90 minutes. By that time, most of my family is at my house, and my kids, my ex, the kids, everyone's there. My brother's on the phone. We're on speakerphone trying to, get through. Ivanka's on the other line, and we're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We don't know. Finally, a call comes in from my dad's, people, whatever it is, and we're like, and his voice was the first voice we heard. I was like, oh God, okay,
yes,
fine. That's like the initial adrenaline dump, but you're still pretty, wired up.
What did he say?
Well, I'm usually the guy I'm the icebreaker because I'll say the stuff that most people will. And I was like, I just said first, but the first thing I said once I knew he was okay was like, by the way, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Because everyone thinks they're a tough guy, especially these days on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Behind a keyboard in mommy's basement, like everyone's a tough guy.
Right.
Get shot in the face and you come back ready to fight. Like,
amazing.
That's cool. That's badass. That's the actual test. Most people, that get tested, 90% of them are going to fail in that situation. Very few are going to, rise to the occasion.
Yes.
Understand what was happening. Ironically, at the RNC that following week, two guys came up to me like, "Hey, man, separately. I was in the stands at Butler, and like people were going to die because there was going to be a stampede because no one knew what was going on." And he goes, "When your dad stood up, everyone was like, they calmed down." And it's like they then left quietly and peacefully, but they felt it shaking. Like two separate people told me that. I was like, I never thought about that. He was like, oh, he saved lives that day by doing what he did instead of just staying undercover and rushing away where people would have been panicked. But so we finally do this. I told him that was the most badass thing ever. There's some conversation, but it's still like a really most importantly, how is the hair? He goes, Don, the hair's fine. It's a little bloody, Don. The hair's fine. And everyone sort of had a laugh. And it was maybe that release we all needed, to have that done. But it was, that night was sort of interesting because you're sort of, the adrenaline is going. And when that adrenaline dump hit, it was like, it crushes you.
Yeah.
So, I woke up the next morning to Kai, calling me, and she's like, and that was the week of the RNC. She goes, I'm speaking at the RNC. I'm like, oh, like really? Like I was not aware of that. I've been working on this for a while. I guess I'll go bump some senator or governor. Like, are you serious? Like, you've never given a speech in your life. Your first speech is going to be in front of like 40,000, whatever it is, live audience and tens of millions on TV. She's like, I don't care. Like, and it's not because she's political. But like she has spent more time with my dad than probably I have, right? She's his golfing buddy. She's great at it. They play every weekend. She I will catch her. We'll be hanging out on a weekend or whatever it is, and she'll be talking to someone about like little pop culture things. I'm like, hey, guy, we got to go do something. Like, you got to quit talking to your friends like this. And she's like, I'm not talking to my friends. I'm like, well, like you're talking about whatever it may be, Taylor Swift or who? Probably not Taylor Swift, but like something like that. And she's like, I'm talking to Grandpa. I'm like, wait, really? Like Grandpa's having like this kind of pop culture teen kind of, like I thought it was like another high school kid or whatever it is, and it's Grandpa for 30 minutes. And it's sort of funny. So they have this great relationship.
That's great.
that's how it started. And she was very adamant about it because, again, I would never put her in that fire. So I called my dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, listen, Kai just called me. She wants to speak at the RNC. And he just goes, whoa. Because he understands what happens if it fails, right?
Sure.
Like they'll destroy her. We don't get the Hunter Biden treatment. Leave the 50-year-old son alone. He's just a child. He's a child. Leave him alone. We don't get that treatment. We don't get the benefit of the doubt. And he just goes, that's a big one. Okay, you know what? That kid's a winner. Let her do it. Like, she'll be fine.
Let's pick up on this. I want to pick up on the other side of this and more on your daughter, Kai, speaking at the Republican National Convention. Donald Trump Jr. in the house. This is awesome.
What's going on, guys?
All right. Look, you've seen it before when disaster strikes. Grocery store shelves can go empty overnight. The worst time to prepare is during the aftermath. By then, it might already be too late. Smart Americans trust My Patriot Supply to help them prepare before crisis even comes. And right now, they're making it easier than ever. Order their 4-week emergency food supply today and get 4 72-hour food kits completely free. That's almost 2 weeks of bonus meals at no cost. Each of these My Patriot Supply kits offers over 2,000 calories per day of delicious, easy-to-prepare meals that last up to 25 years. That's real peace of mind. No last-minute panic. No empty shelves. Just knowing you're covered. Stock up today before this deal disappears, because when an emergency hits, food really could be the first thing to go. So go to preparewithvince.com to claim your kit, plus an extra 12 days of food for free, almost 2 weeks of bonus meals at no cost. Once again, that's preparewithvince.com to claim your kit, plus an extra 12 days of food free. Preparewithvince.com. And this, I've been using the Bond Charge infrared sauna blanket and the red light face mask since they sent them to me and my wife, and we can't recommend them enough. I first turned to the sauna blanket to help with muscle recovery, detoxification. It's become a total game changer, and it's very easy to use. You can just wrap yourself up, let the infrared heat work its magic, and it creates a real difference in how you relax and rejuvenate and how you feel afterward. The red light face mask is equally impressive. I've been using it to help improve my skin's texture and reduce inflammation. I've seen some fantastic results, and it's like having a mini spa treatment for you right at home. So if you're thinking of trying them out, you're in luck. Head to bondcharge.com and use the code VINCE at checkout to get 15% off. Both of these products have made such a positive impact on me, and they will for you too. You're going to love them. Use the code VINCE at bondcharge.com to save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. The chat is going absolutely wild. Everybody's excited about Donald Trump Jr. being here in the house today.
Glad to do it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for that. And they love your description of Tim Walz performing in the Nutcracker with jazz hands.
Yeah,
so
spirit fingers. I'm just like, it was always amazing to me. So I loved watching it happen because, obviously on my Rumble show or whatever, I'd highlight these things, but people were like, yeah, we know it's ridiculous. And I was like, it wasn't even one of those things you have to point out to people.
Yes.
Now that you've said it, now I see what you're saying.
That's
it was
all
like,
you can say.
You didn't need to say anything.
Yeah.
Please give him the mic. Let him come out, jazz up the music, and he's going to do it to himself. It was great.
So good. All right. So the microphone, of course, goes to your daughter, Kai.
Yeah.
So you said you just described how you called your dad and said, "Hey, Kai would like to speak." He considered it for a moment and said, "Great, she's a star. It's going to be great." So she does.
Yeah.
How many audiences has she addressed prior to that?
It was
event?
literally her first speech. I think as a kid, she did 1 or 2 little rallies, meaning the first, in 2015, 2016.
When she was 8
7.
or 9 years
She
old?
was like, give me the mic, literally out of the back of a pickup truck at a tailgate party. I think she spoke at the Florida state, the Florida game one time, I guess Florida, Georgia. And she said Merry Christmas at some rally in Grand Rapids, I think it was, or Cedar Falls, when we were doing, in that, and otherwise, nothing.
Yeah.
She was just a kid with Merry Christmas. I was like, you did great. That's not, but by the way, for some people, that's still hard to do, right? In front of a crowd of thousands of people. But so, she does this thing and, she's very confident, going in. And then we get to the actual event when, you do a warm up. When it's empty, it's easier, right? When you walk, and she's like, oh boy. I was like, just relax, talk 1,000 times slower than you think you need to do, and you're going to do great. And we went out there and, I guess, of the Trump genes I got, luckily the total lack of stage fright. Like I want the mic, I don't want to give it back. I want a larger crowd, not a smaller crowd. That's
right.
It's frankly easier for me. But that was the most nervous I've ever been on a stage. And like, I wasn't even the guy at the mic. I'm just standing 5 feet behind her. Cause I know what happens if there's even if there's a hiccup.
Yep.
You saw it the next day. I knew it hit home the next day when the lovely ladies of The View are like, "That was terrible exploitation of a minor. They should be ashamed of themselves." I'm like, you guys exploit like what? This she's pushing the patriarchy or like whatever the sound bites.
In fairness, ABC is exploiting an entire table of mentally ill people to The View.
I think that's very fair.
It's
tough
true.
but fair. Yeah. So like, I would never do that. Like I would never do that to my kids. Like I care too much about my kids, unlike like the left, who's more than happy to let their kids mutilate themselves. That's not for me. But that was sort of nervous. It was interesting because then I had to speak afterwards, and it was like such a proud dad moment for me. Like I had a hard time focusing on getting back to like what I needed to do. That's then deliver more of a Don speech. Like our speech wasn't even political. It was just like, but like it drove these people nuts that, maybe there's a chance that Donald Trump is actually human. I mean, it doesn't matter that there's countless stories of people that he's helped throughout his life.
Right.
They're just never going to get coverage.
So I know that you and of course your father are very accustomed to negative press. So it probably rolls off you for the most part. You probably don't care that much. But it's got to be different to see press like scrutiny of your kid. So your daughter is not even 18 yet. She's 17 right now. And already, like in the last day, I know she's a great golfer. And everyone's keeping track of her latest golf tournament and writing all these negative headlines about her. Oh, she's not. First of all, she's way better than everybody writing stories about her. And second, it's got to be tough as a dad to see intense sort of negative scrutiny placed on your kid.
Yeah, and some of it's, what's interesting now is, I mean, a year ago, the number one comment I'd get from people is like, "I love your Instagram feed because you just don't care," and it's all memes and like occasional family stuff or whatever it may be. Now it's like, hey, like liberals come up to me and are like, my daughter really loves Kai, and I'm just like, wow, didn't see that come. And it's sort of interesting. She's done an incredible job breaking out the negative stuff. My superpower in politics or business is like, I legitimately don't care what other people say. It allows me to do what I do.
Right.
It's why I don't ever pull back. It's why I'm uncomfortable being aggressive, because if you don't like it, I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm going to do it anyway. And like, it's harder when it's your kid.
I bet.
But generally speaking, I think it's been pretty good. Again, I don't get the trade. She had actually a pretty good piece today in the Washington Post. I haven't even had a chance to read it, but like friends who have, they're like, wow.
I saw it.
I read it. That's the permission slip for them to attack me harder, because they're like, look, we're being fair. We were nice to a 17-year-old girl so we can destroy Don next week or something.
I read it this morning, and it's very glowing, and it talks about how she's like she's like the humanizing force for the Trump White House. And in a way, it's kind of a backhanded compliment to her. It's like everyone else is like completely unhuman, but she's very human. But this is what we call in journalism a beat sweetener. It's like you write a really nice piece just to like, maybe we'll get the Trump family to like us again, and then boom, they try and hit you.
Listen, at this point with the Washington Post, I imagine that's a lost cause for me. If they're decent to a 17-year-old, I'm all for it.
That's
hopefully that's the start. I mean, my understanding, and I haven't even had a chance to read it yet, but it sort of talked to her more on a political thing, and that's her. Like, she's trying to not get anything. She's like, it's not political at all. I think that's what makes it. It doesn't have to be. She's like, it's not my world. I don't want to do that. So they're trying to make it more like, well, this is a political force. It's like she has nothing.
So,
she's talking to young kids, and like, I think a kid that's just clean cut and works hard and is a straight A student and is a good athlete. Like, maybe that's a better role model than some of the stuff that's being pushed on us. Like, you're not good unless you have nose rings and rainbow colored freak hair and like mutilate your body.
Exactly.
And you're confused and you hate your country and your parents. Like, that's the ideal child. It was sort of like, oh wow, like it's refreshing that like maybe you can have a normal role model for a change.
So one of the cool things that they did focus on in that Washington Post piece is just what she's doing with social media and bringing people inside of this world that nobody else has access to. Not even like those top Trump donors or anybody else. This is the granddaughter of the president, so she goes to a bunch of cool events and she captures them. And in the process, she gets to meet a lot of cool people, including Elon Musk. And Kai, I think in the last 24 hours, has posted a video. Can we play this? This is a video from Kai Trump, Donald Trump Jr.'s daughter. Apparently, she has just received a Tesla from Elon Musk.
Watch this.
Oh boy.
Yep, that was fast. I don't know.
That was So Elon got this one for me because they didn't make it at the time. My grandpa got me one. He got me the souped up version. So it's 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, which is insane.
Oh, this is 2.6 seconds?
2.6.
Oh, yeah, then you give me the 0 to 60 for sure.
So my dad's is, I think his car's 3.2 seconds or whatever.
Uh-oh.
Him.
Well, I drive a big truck, but it's a faster. I drive a TRX. I love it. It's a great car. And I was like, okay, I got to see, what it'll do relative to the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
And the Cybertruck is super ridiculous. I've never off the line. It's faster than most sports cars. They're both 7,000-pound trucks, so they're both super fast. Mine's 700 horsepower.
Yes. How do you feel about your daughter having a faster car than you right now?
Well, listen. I think we got to break that down even further. How do I feel about my 17-year-old daughter driving, period? It's I'm still a dad. I'm just I don't like this. You don't need a super, but it's a big, heavy car. So I like that. So it's good. I think that one came about. I think it was funny. Kai was playing with my dad, and Elon called about something, and he was just like, Elon, my granddaughter needs a new car. What do you recommend? And he was like this. My dad got her a Cybertruck. I was like, he just here, take that. It was pretty funny. She calls me. I'm like, my dad never did that to me. If I wanted a truck, it was go, it was
get a
I'll
job.
lease you something crappy, and if you want to upgrade it, you're gonna have to work for it. I'm like, wait, you're just giving her Cybertrucks? I mean, her truck is nicer than me. I'm at 47.
Yes. Are you concerned that your dad likes her better than you?
It's not even a concern because there's no reason to be concerned about something that's very obvious. It's I think I always joke Kai, and it's because of golf. I don't even play golf, so I'm the black sheep in the Trump family. I barely play golf. I was good, but I never loved it, so I just I have my other hobbies that keeps me busy. So I'm the black sheep. I'm out of the will by not playing golf.
Oh, that's funny.
She is. She's probably the recipient in my stead.
So you said I wanted to ask about this. How did you get into hunting? Is your dad a hunter at all?
No.
Has he ever gone with you?
No. No, can't teach an old dog new tricks. So my dad loves golf. That's what he's passionate about. I was pretty good. He always gets mad at me because he was like, I'll pick up a club after not picking up a club for 2 years and always had a really good swing. And he's like, you'd be a +2 if you played. Bah. And I'm like, but when I'm out there, I'm like, I look at the water and I'm like, man, I wonder if there's fish in there. I could go fishing or
you wander off.
It's just, it was never a passion of mine. So it's I used to probably do it a lot to play with him. And then I remember with my ex one night, I came home and I was like, man, I didn't do anything all weekend. I got a busy week. She's like, you played golf 3 times. What do you mean? I'm like, oh, I thought of it more as work instead of fun. And so I'm happy to most of my kids play. I love it for them.
Yeah.
It was just never for me. And you got to kind of do what you want. I got into it, sort of got into the outdoors. My grandfather was a blue collar, electrician from communist Czechoslovakia. I spoke the language fluently. I started going over there very young. My mom, I think, and him, maybe my dad a little bit, were like, okay, you're living on the 70th floor of Trump Tower. You have to experience the other side of life. So I spent, a month plus every summer in what was then communist Czechoslovakia in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Had friends, spoke the language, they got me into the outdoors. There's the woods, I'll see you at dark. And so it was like America if you step back in time 70 years where, so I got some of that experience as a child, fell in love with it. I went to boarding school in 8th grade. Just wanted to get out of New York City. It was my parents going through a rough divorce and all that. I was like, you know what? I just want to be here. Went to boarding school in central Pennsylvania. And, a couple guys there saw that I loved the outdoor stuff, took me under their wing, got me, shooting guns. I mean, I shot air guns and stuff like that earlier, but fly fishing and air guns.
Yes.
And I just fell in love. And the second I could
because
drive.
Your life is so busy and the environments you're describing are meditative. You can just
that's
get
my
out
escape.
and be alone.
They're like, what do you, I can't, I have totally ADD about everything, but I can go in the mountains without a phone for 10 days, come back out, and it's now within about 4 hours of catching up on emails, I'm usually back to the stress level I was before. But that's sort of my release, and so I just love being out there.
That's
whether
cool.
It's fishing, hunting, just shooting.
But your dad
outdoors.
never had an interest; he was never into that.
I think I've seen him shoot once or twice, but that's about it. No, it was. You're not going to change him. You know what I mean? It's my dad's the guy that and it's why he's probably successful at so many things. He's the guy that can't even understand why you may not like the same music that he does. He's like, no, but this is the best music. He's
very proud of his playlist.
He's DJ Trump is DJ Trump is a thing. That's Mar-a-Lago. He'll sit there and do it all night, and I'm like, okay, I got to go because it's playing so loud. I can't hear. I'm not having. It's like, you hate music. I'm like, I don't hate music. I just if I can't have a conversation because we're playing so loud, I don't feel the need to sit here that long.
I think back to it was the 2016 election, and we were on the road. It was the New Hampshire primary. Missouri. And if you recall that night, it was very snowy. The debate.
I remember that one.
There was the debate occurred. Marco Rubio was having a lot of trouble on stage. We don't talk about that now because Rubio's wonderful. But Rubio was having trouble on stage. And so that night we went to the only steakhouse. It was me and a couple of Daily Call reporters and Tucker Carlson. We all went to the only steakhouse that was open that night. Yeah. And we're sitting there enjoying our meal, and the Secret Service comes walking in a few minutes later. It's an almost empty restaurant. And sure enough, right after they come in and scan the restaurant, your entire family walks in. And everybody walks in to have dinner. Yeah. And President Trump stops by the table, not yet president. And my buddy, Alex Pappas, asks a reporter, he goes, "Hey, I got to ask you about your playlist." He goes, "You've got like the Rolling Stones, you've got like Elton John.
Go right to Pavarotti.
You've got like all these like basically foreign performers. Like, what about like a lot more American performers?" He asked. And your dad just stopped him and he said, No. My playlist is amazing. Don't you love it? And he just didn't even care what the question was. He was like, "I'm telling you, I have a great playlist. Yeah. It's the best." Which was a hoot. I just loved it.
I remember that dinner. That was an interesting one. Yeah, that was a crazy time. I mean, the 16 elections sort of for me is sort of the most nostalgic. Like, it was the most fun,
wasn't it?
Because there was no expectation of us actually winning, right? It was like I'm going to fight as hard as I possibly can. Like, it was like, even no matter what, like you watch CNN, it's like you have no chance. You have 0% chance. It's like if we got 1%, if we outperform by 1%, that's a win based on what we were saying.
And in public, everybody acts confident. But I will say, I talked to people, like really good Trump people, that morning of election day, and they were like, "We'll see." Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I was like, we're going to overperform. Like, we're going to do so much better than anyone thought. But like, come on, how do you beat that?
Yeah.
When they started with Russia collusion, I'm like, collusion? Like, we couldn't collude to order a cheeseburger. Like, we didn't know anything what was going. Like, no one knew what they were doing. It was like we had a good message. My father, ironically, as a billionaire from New York, knows real people because he spent all his time on construction sites. Perhaps it's why Eric and I, we grew up on construction sites too. It's probably why I talk the way I do. But like, we weren't sheltered from real people, like so many people in Washington, D.C. are. Even people that are in Congress that are supposed to live amongst their constituents, they have no idea about these people. So like, I understood and appreciated the irony that, this brash billionaire from New York was the guy that could actually resonate with blue-collar workers, just because he'd actually spent time with them a lot. But like, you didn't think you were going to win. You didn't have the staffing. You didn't have it. So it was like, I don't know, like, give me a mic somewhere and I'll be fine. Like, so it was fun. It was cool. It was easy from that perspective.
Yes.
Once you have an infrastructure and then you're expected this, it's like, wow, this kind of sucks.
One of my favorite memories from election night 2016, I was there at the Midtown Hilton where you held the victory party. And it was early in the morning. We get that announcement that he won the presidency. And then he comes out. And the way that room is structured, there was a big, almost like a catwalk that you walk across. Then you walk down some stairs, and then you come onto the main stage. And on that catwalk was the entire Trump family, everybody that you know from the presidential campaign. President Trump was in the front. And I think this was his choice. He was playing the theme music from Air Force One, which is it's a very kind of like emotional, like American theme that people just think of. It was so resonant. And all of you walked down on that stage together. And I just remember being in utter shock at what I was viewing, like, in a good way. Just like,
me too.
I turned to a buddy and I go, "America just elected Donald Trump president of the United States." Yeah. And he gave a thank you speech. He thanked every single person on that stage except for Mike Pence, because I guess
turns out Trump's always right about everything. It just sometimes takes a while to figure it out.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
like, of all the people he didn't thank on stage, like literally the only person he didn't thank was his running mate. Every single person he thanked. He literally was like, I think he was like thanking the janitors. He was thanking everybody. But Mike Pence, for some reason. Do you remember that night?
I do. I do. Because I remember right before that, like, I was like videoing the Hillary call, which was pretty awesome. I don't even know if I've ever posted that. I probably should.
Oh, you should. Its shelf life is
the concession
good now.
call. Yeah, no, it's just like, because I was like, this is really happening. Because I was, again, I felt we'd overperformed without question. I was the guy on the ground more than probably anyone in terms of like getting into real America. That's sort of what I did. I wasn't the guy that was going to manage data, because I was like, I'm good. I'm pretty good with a mic. I figured that out. Like, send me.
Yeah.
Running a campaign wouldn't have been my strong suit. Then I was much more involved in those, that apparatus this time, because I'd figured it out after 3 terms. Now I actually have some credibility to stand back on. Like, I get how this works.
Right.
That time I didn't know anything. And so, yeah, that was an amazing night. I mean, I don't think I ever went to sleep because it was just like, I tried at like 6 a.m. to go to bed for an hour, and I was like, what do we do now?
Yes.
Right. Sometimes the dog catches the car, right? It was like, and the difference, and the same thing happened this time around. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was like, when we won in November, and it was like, this was different though. It was like, I got like 2 hours of sleep, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to staff him with people. We're not just going to listen to Chris Christie or some other guy pushing their buddies that suck, or are barely conservative, or Rhino neocons, or they have an R next to their name and maybe some cred, but they'll sell you down the river in 2 seconds to make sure that they can position themselves better for some lobbying contract or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
This time it was like, okay, we're going to get to work, and we're going to give him the best cabinet we can possibly give him.
So let me end where we started, basically, where I was asking you about J.D. Vance. I saw something recently that some reporter asked you if you are planning on running for president of the United States, and you basically said, you told this reporter they were an idiot for thinking
I actually
that.
told them they were retarded. They were like, "Are you going to use that as your quote?" I'm like, "Yes, that is my official. You are a retarded moron." That was my official response. You can quote me. Well, because they try. I see what they do in politics, right? That's why we did sort of the Bobby Kennedy thing.
Yeah,
like we did it quiet, because if everyone found out and it started leaking, then they'll find a way to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
right. They'll find a way to break it up if you give them the time to do that. You see them doing that now. Don Jr. is running for president. Like, there's polls that had me tied with JD. Like, why would I, assuming I'm not also retarded? And what's nice is we're bringing back the word retarded, right? Like, gay and retarded are back in the vernacular. I'm just saying it's fine. It was probably every other word out of all of our high school lives.
Yeah.
Then it became a totally cancelable offense. Now, like, people are over the cancel nonsense, because it actually has nothing to do with being gay or retarded, like, as we know. Never did, but that doesn't stop them. But they're trying to create these schisms. But I just replied back, be like, and it's like the last quote at the bottom of the story. So they're like, "Oh, Don Jr.'s running," and like, we can create a problem. And like, my quote is the most aggressive, shutdown quote ever.
Yes.
And my thesis in the rest of the quote was basically like, listen, assuming I'm not an idiot, and I had the vision to help curate a guy that's a great talent and use all of my political capital for maybe the next 50 years to make that happen. Like, why would I nurture that kind of talent instead of letting some, puppet of the billionaire class go in there that, if I really wanted to run, I'd probably destroy in a primary in 2028? Like, why would I create a much harder competition? Wouldn't I be knifing?
Yes.
Like, if I played the game like everyone else in DC, wouldn't I be knifing our best talent to clear an easier path for me if I actually wanted to do that? So, yeah. Maybe one day, you never know. I'm never going to rule anything out, but I want to make sure we have a long bench of great talent.
Yep.
It's not just about Trump. I think he's the catalyst we need. I think he's perhaps one of the only guys that can do what we need to do right now. Maybe the only guy, probably the only guy that can do what we need to do right now. Just take on everything and just not care. I don't want to say burn it down, because then they'll say I'm encouraging violence, even though they're burning down Tesla stations all over the world. But he's the guy that can do that. But you need that bench of guys that can follow through and keep it going, and not just revert back to the insanity of the past. And so I think JD's done an incredible job. But like I said, this 4 years, we've actually started curating some real talent. And whether that's for 28 or for 32 or for 36, we actually have a bench of warriors now, and that's absolutely awesome.
Okay, all right. I know we're up against it, and Rummel's got a great lineup, so we're sending it to each guy, including to Steven Crowder coming up next. But before we get there, hey, fellas, can you zoom in on this real fast for me? This is the Donald Trump signed Flesh and Blood card. Flesh and Blood is the name of the card game. This is the first.
I don't even know what that is.
Me neither. Guy is our executive producer, and he got President Trump to sign this, making this one of the most valuable cards he owns. He loves this game. He asked me, because he's not here today, to get you to sign this one.
Deal.
Would you mind?
Not at all.
All right, here we go. This is big.
I'm going to move the mic a little bit.
Here we go. Check the names. Okay. There we go. We got a Donald Trump Jr. signature. The Donald Trump card is called Gold, apparently. And this one, the Golden Sun.
Oh, wow. I like that.
I like that too.
I'll take it.
All right. Hey, Donald Trump Jr.
Thanks a lot, Vince.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Good to talk to you. Steven Crowder is up next right here on Rumble.
have you here. Today is a big day because Monday is even bigger. This is the last day. Anyone who is watching on YouTube that we stream live on YouTube, Monday the 24th is D-Day. Where all streaming going forward is exclusive on Rumble. And it's not just me, it's the rest of the lineup that you can tune into live from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. And it's going to be growing out. You have Tim Pool, you have Jeremy at the court. You have Russell Brand next week. He's back from break. You've got Viva Fry. So next week, it's all on Rumble. Download the app and follow us right there. You get notified when we are live. You don't get any of their spam. You don't get algorithms telling you to watch transgender tutorial makeup guides, whatever's going on YouTube these days. I have no idea because it's a cesspool of filth and sadness where dreams go to die. Monday 24th is D-Day. YouTube is dead. Rumble did it. Enjoy these visual medleys.
Hi, I'm Rumble.
And I'm YouTube, the #1 place for live streaming.
Oh, no, you're not. He's not, you piece of shit.
Whoa, now, calm yourself down. We don't tolerate that kind of language here.
Well, I don't care if he... Oh, that's right. This is on YouTube, isn't it?
Well, you are in my space.
No, you're going the way of MySpace. Antiquated, old, obsolete.
Ageism, huh? Oh, that's going to be a strike.
That's a strike.
Hey, come on. Hey, come on, buddy.
Hey, look at this.
What?
YouTube is dead. Rumble did it. Watch the new Rumble Live lineup Monday through Friday, including Louder with Crowder at our new time, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Your subscription bell is shot to hell. There's no turning back. Censored and all, fighting some hard strike to try and get paid. But YouTube sucks. That's what you've come to expect. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay. Please subscribe and like. Hey, there's a dick. It's all so obscene. YouTube, you know what you did. And these idiot kids you think don't have a clue. They're starting to get wise to your games. It looks like you're through. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay.
I'm going to cancel YouTube on the 24th.
YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay. YouTube is gay.
Monday is D-Day. Monday, we all cancel YouTube. All streaming is going to be exclusively live on Rumble from now on, with a continual lineup Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, and expanding. That's this Monday, the 24th. YouTube is dead. Rumble did it. That's the sound of, now Friday live. Live. Rumble weekdays 11 a.m. Eastern. We have a lot to get to today. Apparently, Canada is preparing for an invasion from the United States. And by that, I mean surrender.
I'm just glad they're finally building a wall.
Yes.
That's nice.
It's really more of a moat with a couple of bricks.
Maple syrup.
Listen to the little piggy story. You can't do it out of sticks. Now, Donald Trump has also got, or is it straw? I don't remember. Both of them. They were screw ups. Donald Trump is gutting the Department of Education, is what you'll hear. Teachers will be out of a job, is the lie that you'll hear. And also today we do a What We Missed. Since it's Friday, I know a lot of you are on the road and some of you are listening to this, and you get to send in, chat, what we missed this week, what you want us to cover, because we can't cover everything every day. If we didn't already have to do it with the intro, which I don't think so, I think it's okay to call something gay now on YouTube because it's 2025. People are less sensitive. But at some point today, if you're still watching on YouTube for the very last day of our live streams there, you may see this. Head on over to Rumble.
Oh, I like that little sound effect.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Let's take a trip down memory lane. What was your favorite Louder with Crowder moment here, or Mug Club moment on YouTube? Comment below. It's been a saga. You know, several billion plays in the making, and this is a pretty big shift, and I'm happy to do it.
Absolutely. And YouTube, you still owe us some plaques because we want to destroy those too.
That's true.
So
YouTube owes us 3 plaques.
3.
And they refused to send the other ones once they saw that we literally blew it up.
I'm sending a letter.
Apparently, they don't take kindly to Tannerite.
Well, they can't cost. They don't cost that much money to make, I assume.
No, it was the principle of it.
They're ours.
Which is also, it was the principle of it for us too. That's why we urinated on it and blew it up at a gun range.
Yes.
Captain Morgan, CEO. Hope you are well, sir.
Doing well.
And Josh Firestein, of course, is here. Not _ Firestein on X. That's not him. He, of course, wouldn't violate the rules.
No, I would never violate the rules. Actually, I'm at the same number of followers I had before I got banned the first.
Before you mean that
the other account?
You mean
I finally built that. My official.
You don't have the followers that the other account.
This new guy has the same amount of followers that I had when I got banned.
New guy. So go follow the new guy.
Now it's time to threaten the Canadian police.
Yeah. It's like the 6th day of X. By the way, comment below for those of you who understood the reference in that intro. For those of you who don't, I apologize for the confusion, but we did it anyway.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Don't. You don't apologize.
Before we get to more stories, Rosie O'Donnell, you know, she's in Ireland now. They're not happy about it. She has some...
Send her back to the jungle with Tarzan. That's what I said.
I don't know if you also saw the price of potatoes went up like $4 a pound.
Wow.
Scarcity.
Come on, Rosie.
So she decided to opine on politics, clothing, and her daughters, though I'm dead naming here, but I'll say daughter, pronouns.
It's not easy to move to another country, and
it is when you're rich.
We really felt as a family this was the safest and best thing for us to do. And it looks like, sadly, we were correct. Went shopping today at a wonderful boutique in Dublin to get some clothes for myself that fit better.
Good luck.
One of those people who's always had a weight issue. And now that I'm a size large instead of an XL or a 2XL.
Then you must be very proud of yourself.
I find it shocking.
Me too.
You know?
But they didn't sell a tarp?
I really do. I find it completely shocking. One more thing, I just watched it back. I know that I say she a lot with Clay, and I really need to use they, them as the tattoo I got right there on my wrist.
In case you forget your insanity?
Which is backwards for you. It looks like yet. Y-E-H-T. Yet. But
like you haven't lost enough weight yet.
Those are the pronouns, and I'm trying my best. I know the she's sneak in, and I'm embarrassed of it, and I'm really working on it. So that's all. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Well, Rosie, I appreciate it. You keep working on it. It's pronounced niet. As in no more. By the way, you're so gung-ho, right? You have such conviction about these pronouns that you have to get a permanent tattoo to remind you of it.
I am a little sad that Rosie O'Donnell's now a smaller size than me.
Oh, come on.
Like, wait, I'm making fat jokes.
Look as good as you, though.
Yeah,
well, thank you. I agree.
She's always been a smaller size in talent.
Oh, thanks.
Also, there's a little part of me that just I'm thrilled that the angry lesbian Rosie O'Donnell, who hates her country, now has to worry about offending her more progressive daughter. Mom, you don't understand. You're so close-minded. What? I scissor. I've told you, progress for the sake of.
I mean, wait till Conor McGregor's her president.
Oh yeah, Conor McGregor. If he becomes president, he's going to deport her right away.
Connor's going to look at her daughter and go, "Who the f is that guy?"
I'm going to protest. You'll do nothing. Jeez. It's just progress for the sake of progress. You guys see? It leads. Well, it leads to nowhere, but it leads to evil eventually. She can't get along. Just think about it. The gap used to be, every film used to be, I'm not, no son of mine's going to be a queer, like the people who don't exist in real life. But 20 years from now, it's going to be a lesbian mom who's like, no daughter of mine's going to be a they. Mom, you're such a closed-minded traditional lesbian. So.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad she's out of the country. Hope she stays that way.
Yeah. Oh, she won't. They have smaller portion sizes in Europe.
It's not gonna happen.
It's she's gonna be having that hankering for golden corral.
Wouldn't it be funny if Ireland large was American double X?
I lost weight.
I went to this lovely boutique. I was a size small in Ireland.
Ozempic.
Yeah, the shopkeeper's like, are you going to tell her or should I?
No, don't do it.
And by the way, let's move on to Canada here. I know I was raised there, but was born in Detroit, just in case, well, right outside Detroit. No one's actually born in Detroit. They're mugged there or carjacked. But I'm American. I was given dual citizenship, which I want to figure out how to reject. I still don't know how to do that.
Shred the passport?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't even know.
You're holding on to it.
It's a silly place, Canada. It is a very, very silly place. But now they're upset. In case you thought that President Trump was joking, he made it explicitly clear that he wants Canada, and now they're preparing for an invasion because of this. He wants Canada to be the 51st state.
And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually.
Visually? You sure about that? Said Saskatchewan.
You looking for a Tilly buddy?
Let's have Donnybrook. Careful, that's my cousin.
I see the resemblance.
Jeez, how does that thing survive winter?
Well,
the weight. I don't know.
Well,
Insulation.
Other people survive winter by crawling into her like Luke Skywalker. Camel. So Canada's all upset about this, which brings us to the latest installment, and it does relate to you as an American. No Canada. Didn't we have a news stinger with the national anthem on No Canada?
Maybe.
I thought we did.
By the way, was that a Star Wars?
It was
reference?
more
Where are
offensive.
you?
Didn't we have one? Right, Noodles?
We did.
Okay, guys, send it in. It's fun. Anytime we can poke our finger in the chest of the socialists up north, that's great.
Let's put my finger into that fat lady from that Photoshop.
Yeah, well, you'll lose it. Hey, you better not poke me with anything you want back.
That's so gross.
Just assumes you
like a cosmic bunny hole in there, eh?
I was going to say she'd be a great goalie, but you'd lose the puck.
You disposable pucks.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You better send yourself a bucket of pucks there. So, new article, the Free Press. It profiled that Canadians are willing to take on America now. Dr. Raghu Venugopal. I hope I'm saying it right, but I don't really care.
Canadian?
Yeah.
From Ontario, said this about fighting for Canada. He said, there are many out there who would have no limit how we would defend this great nation. Many of us would rather have our eyes spooned out, be thrown in acid and eviscerated, tortured, run over by tanks, have our heart pulled from our mouth than have anything to do with the United States. Rather have our eyes spooned out, which prompted the U.S. Army to make a change to their standard issue sidearm. So that is, yeah, well. I was joking.
No.
We adapt to our enemies.
Sir, I see 18 spoons, 4 clicks out.
Hey, we're kind, okay?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we'll do it.
Well, you want it. We'll kill you the way you want.
Yes, exactly. Spoons, that's fine.
Yeah.
We could go with a spork. Probably easier.
Well,
probably get a little more. So there's a new survey, by the way. It says 1 out of 4 Canadians see the United States as an enemy country, while the same poll shows that 4 out of 4 Americans still don't give a shit. So there's that. And here's the thing, Canada, and this is, we're going to get also to Ukraine later, and this proposal of the United States controlling some of their nuclear plants. This is where we are in the United States, right? And we've been exploited. People are taking advantage of our good graces. But even worse, it's the grandstanding. It's them acting as though they have a leg to stand on. It's them acting as though they have any kind of leverage. And this is really, it's exclusively a problem in the modern world that, frankly, the United States has created by being far too benevolent. And I mean that. Canada has a few obstacles if they went to war with the United States. So let me give you just like some comparisons here. For example, like active service members. That's relevant. The United States has about 2.1 million. Canada has less than a 20th of that with 97,000, and half of them are drunks.
That's smaller than Amarillo.
Yes. Tanks. We've got 4,600, give or take. Canada has 80. So I don't
That's a good start.
Yeah. Fighter jets, we have 1,600. Canada has 79. Aircraft carriers, we have 11. Canada has none.
That's a serious country.
Nukes, Canada has none.
That's the only one that matters, in my opinion.
Well, that's helpful.
Also, by the way, if Canada, let's say, if they expend some of these, they need to purchase them, a lot of this equipment from the United States.
Oh.
Do you think you would sell us a nuke? We might need it in the future.
Yeah, look, we got some French Canadians out there who are a problem. Like maybe, you could spur some uranium.
Oh, separatists.
Just think, this is.
I think we get uranium from them, I think.
Yes. I think
but they don't make nukes.
No, they don't.
That's a silly place. Make nukes.
They say, we don't make war. We have peacekeepers. Really? Yeah, you're welcome to the United States military. You're a silly, silly country. And this is where we are. I was raised in Canada. I know you right now, quite a few of you watching might be Canadian. I had to live with the anti-Americanism my whole life. I had a teacher blame the Vietnam War on my dad at a PTA meeting.
Well, it was his fault.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, thanks. And she also kicked me out of class because, hand to God, I said there were 50 states. She corrected me. She went, there are 52. Don't forget Alaska and Hawaii. And I went, including Alaska and Hawaii, there are 50. You dumb bitch. And I got kicked out.
You said dumb bitch.
No, I didn't say that.
You should have.
Everything else except that. I said it quietly.
That's true, though? You got kicked out of class because you corrected her?
Yep. My brother and I prank called her every single day for a week, 10 years later, just yelling 50 states on her answering machine.
That's poutine on her face.
10 years later?
Ask Johnny Boy. He'll tell you.
Wow.
Yep.
Would you set a calendar reminder to be pissed off?
Precisely. That's exactly what we
that
did.
is.
That's fine, yeah.
We set a reminder.
It was a Palm Pilot.
And same thing in Europe.
Pettiness.
The rest of the world, they all look and they go, oh, you Americans are so. Just look, shut up. Social media is not the same as real life. People can go out and say, we're ready to take on the United States. Well, if it's a fight they want, it's a fight they'll get, by God, eh? You don't want this. And by the way, if we were going to describe as to how we will eviscerate you with little to no effort, you're not even going to understand this answer. So how about you sit down, be grateful, and play ball? We're not asking you to do anything that's unfair or anything that we won't do ourselves. You're welcome. If you add all of this up, right, you add up the active service members, the jets, the aircraft carriers. And in case you question me, all references are available every single show, link in the description. I encourage you to peruse it. They still have allies like this.
You can't make Canada the 51st state without going to war with them.
Want to bet?
And let me explain how that happened, how that worked out the last time we tried to go to war with Canada. They burned the White House to the ground in 1814.
Because you don't expect your friends to burn down your crap.
Canada beat us in the War of 1812.
Canada or the king and queen?
It was a colony
against us. We're not going to beat them in a war because we have never been able to do that. They're also in NATO. And since we're backing out of NATO, doesn't that mean that Europe would come to the defense of Canada? And we now be fighting NATO?
Oh, my. Well, I guess they'd have to get to their promised 2% spending as far as a percentage of their GDP, NATO, which Canada hasn't done, but they promise they'll do it by 2030 something, along with all of the other European countries. Again, we protect all of them. NATO, I don't think this is a fight you want. Take your best shot. We're not asking. The United States is not asking for anything unfair. They say tyrannical when we're saying, hey, look, can you spend half of what we spend so that you don't rattle your tin cup to us every single time you actually need help? Do you guys get it? These people are anti-American. When they are blaming the United States and they're praising NATO, these people are bad friends. They are bad allies. We signed a contract. We made a promise. They signed a contract. They made a promise. One nation has honored it consistently. And we're the bad guys? Oh, that's right, because you hate America. And it's more than just military. Culturally, and I've talked about this, everything is downstream from culture. The average American has much higher testosterone than the average Canadian, which is no surprise. Canada, the number is 402 nanograms per deciliter. The United States is 459 nanograms per deciliter. How's our balls taste? Now,
ouch.
Like pineapple.
Depends. I will acknowledge that we, we're better than Canada, but we do pale in comparison to, this is a real stat, Uzbekistan, where they have 773 nanograms per deciliter.
Is that the dark blue area?
Average. Yeah.
Because under Russia?
Yes, 773.
And then there's like this, wow. And then there's this big dark blue area in the middle of Africa too.
Yeah, a lot of testosterone. And, it should come as no surprise. Just ask average Uzbekistani Bob. This is, wow, come on, we should have known.
Whoa.
We thought he was juicing. Turns out he's just...
That's all natural.
Uzbekistanian. I know that's not how it's said. I don't care. This has been No Canada. That's the one I wanted.
There we go.
We've made fun of Canada so much, I forget.
We have variations on it.
We do have. Hey, look, it's Indian Matt Walsh on CNN.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is.
What is feces?
Oh my gosh.
What is a toilet?
Am I tech support?
But by the way, I have a question for you. If an invasion of Canada happened, and of course it very likely is not going to happen, but it's on the table, how long do you think Canada would last? Just place your bets below. It's our last day on YouTube, so let's have fun with it. Again, if you are still on YouTube, this is the last day we're streaming on YouTube. We'll still have some clips, I think, on Crowder Bits, but the last day we're streaming full show. You have to go to Rumble. Download the app. Follow us on the app on Rumble. And don't do it right now, but if you have the app on your phone and you haven't used it in a while, just update it because the Rumble app now is seamless. You can play in a window. You can lock your phone, listen to audio. And I know a lot of truck drivers listen to the show.
Yeah.
And then say, what was that? It didn't make sense. I'm like, well, it's really a visual show.
You have to watch it.
And I don't want you to crash.
Yeah.
Because I don't want your job to be automated.
Well, just set the auto truck drive thing. I've seen The Simpsons. They've got that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Kick back and relax.
All right.
You've never seen that Simpsons?
No, thanks for the contribution.
Oh, thanks.
You know that I'm sorry.
It's the longest running.
That question, how long would Canada last? We have rules of engagement.
Yeah.
That prohibit our guys a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have those,
it's true. Yeah.
A week.
Matters. He said he didn't create the system, but he does have an opportunity to improve it. Hopefully, all this attention will bring to light how broken it is. Immediately in front of his wife and made her watch him make this statement. It's a power move.
It really is.
Now, none of this should be a surprise. It's making the rounds everywhere. Like we kind of saw this coming, especially if you had taken the time to check out. We actually obtained this.
Yeah.
And I believe released it a couple days ago, the leaked dash cam footage of the incident in question. That's enough, Camilla. I was not talking about your mother, and you know it.
Ay, pendejo, you listen to me, okay? Because last time when she came over, she saw you in the garage with all your cervezas, and she counted how many you were drinking.
Come on, that's a load of horsemen. Gray,
Now we're getting pulled over. Are you happy? Wait, your mother wasn't there that day.
She told me you drank so many that you were falling over and you were talking to yourself. You were doing it all night.
No. Now I know you're telling. I was not doing any of that.
That's what my mother says. She said you drive bad too. She said you almost kill a man on a bike and you hit a bird. You hate birds? What did a bird ever do to you, huh? You little bird hater?
Hey, that is I am not a bird hater, and you know as much. She's a lying, miserable bitch, and she can drive herself off a cliff as far as I
Ay,
can.
Dios mío, how dare you talk about my mother like that? That woman is the reason I am here.
That's why I dare.
The reason I am with you right now.
I dare.
She risked everything for me and my 8 brothers and sisters so we could have a good life in this country, right here with you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's your mom or it's a rat house.
That is not appropriate.
How many children do you need?
License and registration, please.
Oh, no. Oh, honey, look. Oh, it's ICE. Oh, how did you know that my wife is illegal?
Hey?
No, please don't take her back to her home country that's not here.
That escalated.
Got to keep your man. You gave him an out.
I mean, that's no way to start a marriage.
That's no way to start a marriage. No, absolutely not.
I don't blame him either.
You fake him out. You don't nag until after the honeymoon.
This is the second honeymoon.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
They get separate honeymoons.
We were renewing our vows. Well, you'll be renewing your passport if you try and get back in here. So,
Renew your Miranda rights.
I knew Miranda in high school. I did not like her. Now, President Trump yesterday signed an executive order, and this is going. It's going viral, but it's being misrepresented. Okay, if you're new here, you may not know we have another show called 3 and 3. Actually, you can bring this up to a man. 3 and 3, where it's 3 key facts in 3 minutes or less, and we cover the topics that you want to know most. 3 irrefutable facts where we provide those references to you. And one of the first ones we did was on the Department of Education. It's less than 3 minutes. 3 key facts: the founding of the Department of Education, the amount of funding it's received, and the test scores, the results. Okay, it's bad. You spent trillions of dollars, and kids are dumber. Let me lay that groundwork. So now President Trump is trying to fix this. And he's taking an approach that is different than the approach we've taken since the 1970s, which has been nothing more than status quo, more money, status quo, more money, status quo, more money. You, the American worker, subsidize the world's defense. And you, the American worker, that includes business owners, you are paying for these awful schools that have consistently gotten worse. So let me ask you, people are outraged at this. We'll cover their misrepresentations. But what's the alternative, if not changing course here, trying something different? What's your solution? So yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order effectively putting an end to the Department of Education.
History has proven them right. Absolutely right. After 45 years, the United States spends more money on education by far than any other country, and spends likewise by far more money per pupil than any country, and it's not even close. But yet we rank near the bottom of the list in terms of success. It's an amazing stat. I'll take this one out. I had one.
Doing crowd work with children.
Where are you from? It turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know. Is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen. Okay.
That kid behind him showing his.
Look, Wednesday Addams likes it.
What is that? What did the other kids' executive orders say? More animal crackers.
Yes, exactly.
After nap.
And Bobby is a poop.
If Steven had been there, he would have drawn a penis.
I would have. I would have, anatomically correct. The vein and the fur. Now, I know what you're going to say.
You're young for that.
There needs to be an act of Congress to fully shutter the Department of Education. I get it. However, and I think that's overlaid B2, the actions that Donald Trump is taking here, President Trump, it's the same strategy as USAID. It would basically render the agency useless. Okay? So, in addition to this executive order. As it relates to education, the Trump administration has done quite a bit. Right? Let me rapid fire this for you. You can check the references to sort of expound upon them. There have been some executive orders basically using grants to prioritize school choice. That's a great thing. Means that the funding is attached to the student, not necessarily attached to the school. Eliminate federal funds for DEI. He's cut federal grants to universities that permitted harassment and discrimination. For example, $400 million cut from Columbia for pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist encampments. And of course, the AFT union president, Randy Weingarten, isn't happy. If you're new here, Randy Weingarten is a woman, which brings us to Claim Truth.
Is it claim she's a woman? Truth, she's not.
No,
see, we'll get.
That's how you set it up.
Don't ruin
Here's
it.
the thing: I'll show you a video, and you'll still question if I'm being honest with you. So, claim from Randy that Trump's actions on the Department of Education are really going to hurt people. Something, especially teachers.
This is what the federal Department of Education does. It's the opportunity agent. It's the equalizer. So everything that it does, from the first moment that Johnson did the war on poverty to now, is about getting poor kids some money for like a reading specialist when you're trying to deal with literacy and helping a poor kid.
It's been a disaster.
Getting a kid who
Literacy's
has a
worse.
disability,
Worse.
occupational therapy or physical therapy. Getting a kid who's going to college and their parents can't afford it, a Pell Grant. And when they cut
Schools are more expensive, more kids are
people,
autistic.
It's like evisceration by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
So you want to do this? Have the fight with us in Congress. Let's make sure we get the issues out there. I'm so mad. I'm spitting mad about this.
Really? You're spitting mad? Okay, let me just go through exactly what she said before I get to some of the sort of macro truths. She says, Lyndon Johnson. Okay, great. Black Americans, Andrew Breitbart was accused of being a racist when he said this. Black Americans, as far as literacy, as far as divorce rates, as far as crime, were performing better. This does not mean that I support it, but you have to ask why. Had better metrics during Jim Crow era laws than today. There were more dads in the household. There were fewer black criminals. And kids were learning more. Just to be clear, doesn't mean it's right. I'm not saying that. He was accused of being racist because Andrew Breitbart was trying to say our Department of Education clearly isn't working. It hasn't served them. It was designed to get them money. Okay? Has it put money in their pocket? Are black people wealthier? Or are more black people poor? Has the war on poverty worked? It was to help kids with disabilities. More kids are retarded. It was to help literacy rates. Okay, they're worse. Literally nothing she says there holds water. But most folks, didn't necessarily have those facts at the ready. They had the same reaction after she spoke.
How about this? Shut your mouth, or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and I'll shut it for you.
He said it, not me.
Wow.
No emotion in that guy's face.
Here's the truth. And after this, I know you had something you wanted to add, Gerald. She's also been complaining really about teachers, and this is going after teachers. Let's have the fight in Congress. We've been having it for a long time. The cuts are administrative. So again, if you listen to what Trump has actually said and what he's doing, this is his stance on the teachers.
I want to just make one little personal statement. Teachers, to me, are among the most important people in this country, and we're going to take care of our teachers. And I don't care if they're in the union or not in the union. That doesn't matter. But we're going to take care of our teachers, and I believe the states will take actually better care of them.
I believe he's correct. I believe the states are going to do a much better job of taking care of teachers. By the way, she's also trying to make everybody afraid of what programs are going to go away. Pell Grants, loans, stuff like that. That's going to move to the Department of Treasury. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty simple one right there. Why didn't she just say that? Oh, it's moving to a different department. No. I got to scare people. Now, let's go to the best one. Oh, kids, they have to have food, nutrition. Kids don't learn because they're hungry. That's probably a problem in the top 5, but the number one problem I think we worked out, that's actually going to the Department of Agriculture. That they're going to be fine. That's still going to be a thing. Right. You just don't like that the power is not going to be centralized anymore for you.
Yeah.
That's your biggest issue.
Also, we have more people dying of obesity than starvation in this country. Think about that for a second.
We could just eat the fat people, right?
Yep.
Oh, no, that's not what you're saying.
I'm not.
Maybe.
I mean, it's a possibility. We'd have to run some of the numbers, but the point is, hey, you know what? That's kind of a win. We're dying because of too much stuff. I don't know if you know this. That's a pretty modern problem. Now, let's look at what Donald Trump, he said he cares about the teachers. His actions would suggest that. 50% is what we're seeing as a reduction in the Department of Education.
So
He's
far.
cut it in half,
Yeah.
50%. So 4,200 staff reduced down to 2,100. He placed some DEI staff on leave. And just to be clear, these are administrators. These aren't teachers. This is important because the teachers union really, let's just call it the public education union.
Yeah, it's true.
It effectively ends up being a giant slush fund. The money doesn't necessarily go to teachers. If you believe that teachers should be paid better, first off, you may not know what the salary and the benefits are for a lot of public school teachers. We'll get to that in a second. But if you want them paid better, then you would want the reduction of administrative staff. Let me give you some more numbers. Here's another truth for you. The administrators are the ones who are, so from 2000 to 2019, the administrators have been the winners, right? The administrative hiring has far outpaced the growth in student and teacher populations. So student and teacher growth is less than 10%. The administrative growth is 87%.
Wow. Outrageous.
87%. So what they do is they tell you class size, class size, class size. Well, first off, that's not even true because you have private Catholic schools in New York that have much larger class sizes and they still perform better.
Well, they beat the kids. So
Well,
That's true.
that's helpful.
You throw a few angry, sexually frustrated nuns with rulers at the problem. It's amazing what you can accomplish.
I can read.
Yeah.
Read or you're getting hit.
Yes. So 87%. By the way, you would see this mirrored in health insurance as well. You would see this mirrored in the health sector, another place where we've been woefully inefficient. It's not that there are more doctors. It's not that there are more healthcare professionals. It's the red tape and it's people who work at the insurance agencies and the administrative offices, right? That's a big problem that we see, and it's a big problem that is always exacerbated by big government. Here's another number for you. The administration's salaries, meaning administrators versus teachers. So the average teacher salary in this country is about $69,000.
That's pretty good for having the summer off.
I believe. I don't know if that's prorated, but it doesn't include
not.
benefits. The average salary for an educational administrator, over $100,000, $103,000.
Jeez.
And by the way, a lot of these jobs, I know what you're thinking, well, you need principals. Well, sure, kind of. But a lot of these jobs have nothing to do with education or teaching your kids. So for example, 79% of school districts with more than 100,000 kids, they have a chief diversity officer.
Seriously.
And they're making on average over $100,000 to say, hey, put some more black kids in there.
But they don't live here.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Let's get it done.
School choice? No.
Yeah, I want a wisecracking young black kid in here before you can say teachers union.
Start a basketball program.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, was that
We're getting our asses kicked.
No.
No, not at all. 94%, this is all a racket, 94% of teacher union donations go to Democrats. And by the way, this money comes back. Same thing, you can include administrators, people in this union. It's a public sector union is what you're talking about effectively. You're talking about public sector education workers. We have spent $2 trillion, not adjusted for inflation, at least on public education since the 1970s, and we have worse test scores. What point do we do something differently? And you know what? We're not even just we're starting by eliminating bureaucrats.
Yeah.
If you don't think we can start firing bureaucrats before we even touch teachers, then you don't believe that there's any solution to this problem other than more money. By the way, that also brings us to Randy Weingarten, a woman.
Yeah.
That's her, the AFT, right? They gave exclusively pretty much 100%
come on.
to Democrats.
99.99. What did somebody accidentally give $200 to Republicans? Yeah.
By the way, Noodles is sick, in case you were wondering what that was.
This is normal.
Yeah. People were going, why do they have a Ethel Merman hologram?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Ethel Merman. It's an old show.
You always have these.
She's the one who talked like they have a Klein, want the trolley. Old Jewish lady.
Okay.
Here's another truth. They always try and point to you and say, you don't care. Wait, let's change it. What if we do care? What if you could almost, by every metric available to you, say that conservatives value family and children more than liberals? We have more of them, and we spend more time with them.
Yeah.
And we believe in protecting them more. And we actually, when we can, spend more of our resources